episode 12 of the Mind and Muse podcast. If you are a new viewer, this is a podcast about the crafty side of my life. It's a place where I share with you what things I've been up to, what crafts I like to practice, what new crafts I have indulged into, and basically all of the crafty goodness. I do some crochet, I do some knitting, very seldomly, but I do some. I do a little bit of sewing, more often than knitting, but not as often as crochet. And lately I have taken a liking to felting. So every once in a while you'll see here a wool painting or a needle felted item or a 3D sculpture. Well, basically trying to keep the craftiest life possible in my free time. So, welcome. Today is Monday. Today is Monday, the 8th of October, and I am coming to you at about maybe close to 11 o'clock on a Monday morning, which is not the usual for me, but I have been trying to get this podcast up all weekend. Well, not so much up as recorded because it has been very overcast here. There has been very poor lighting and been very cloudy and rainy, and I wasn't sure if I could get the best lighting for this scenario, but then I just gave up and I decided, well, we'll do with whatever we've got and try and make this as best as possible. You'll hear probably noise in the background because it's a very hot day, and so I've got a fan on trying to blow a little fresh air this way, specifically for the next part, some things that I'm going to share with you this morning. Okay, so let's get on with it. Welcome if you are a new viewer, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. I am always very grateful for those of you that take the time to share some of your time with me, because I know it's not only me sharing with you, but it's also you sharing back with your comments and with your likes and etc. So thank you for taking the time, for pressing that watch button, and for staying around to see what I have to say. So what I have to say this morning, first of all, is about what I am wearing. If you will notice, here we go, now it's facing the right way. I am wearing one of my pieces of jewelry, recent piece of jewelry that I have created due to the Alpaca that has been going on ever since the 29th of September. If you remember, I have been sharing with you for a couple of weeks now, or a couple of episodes at least, that I constructed and shared on my blog this pattern for a miniature sock, and depending basically on your gauge, the size of the needle you choose to use, and the gauge of your yarn that you are using, you might get a very different sock. Some of the socks are very small, some of them are a bit larger, and it's no fault in the pattern. I mean, we're all using the same 16 stitches, but it does make quite a difference depending on what yarn you use. So here's one of my versions. I actually have no idea what brand of yarn this is, because this was a series of minis that I purchased from a D-stash, and I purchased maybe 20 minis of different weights, but the type of yarn, the gauge, the yardage, the colorway, none of that was included with the D-stash. So I picked it specifically because it looks autumnal to me, the colors of the season, and because it was, I could tell just by looking at it that it was a plumpy fingering weight. It was a 4-ply, but it was plumpy, and that it was going to produce a sock that was a bit bigger than some of the ones that I was making up with high twist yarns. So this is my version. One of my brothers lives at home with my mom, basically lives with her and takes care of her still. So he saw me crocheting my socks, and he had a piece of rubber that he wanted to reuse, and so he reused it by cutting out sock blockers from the rubber for my little socks. And so I decided I would hang it on there. It makes it kind of versatile in the sense that I can put the necklace on it, or if I don't want it as a necklace. I can gift it, and if the person doesn't want to use it as a necklace, they can also use it maybe as a keychain. Your thing with it, it makes a nice little sock, and if you use a bigger hook with a thicker yarn, you could probably even do DK or worsted and end up with a sock that would be good to use as a Christmas ornament on your tree, or socks for little dolls of your children. It's got its uses, as I have discovered along the way, though at the point excuse me. Though at the point where I actually designed it, I thought, well, who would ever want to do this? But as I keep on continuing to make them, well, I have found more uses for them. You do remember that a while back I was making lots of these little socks in Christmas designs for a Christmas advent that we had been planning between a couple of podcasters and crafters, and I'm pretty much sure that at this point the listing has been pulled because we didn't get any pre-orders, and so we figured it was best to pull the listing, because when you're dyeing yarns and things like that, you have to do so in large quantities, because if not, it's just not worth the effort. So although I already have a bunch of these socks made and they won't go into a Christmas advent, they are going to be available on Dainty by Crochet Cakes, a couple of them, with the blockers, the mini blockers, either in rubber or in wood. And my brother also made some of them in wood for me. And you can use them and purchase them and use them if you would like. Another use that I gave to these mini socks was to create bookmarkers. And here's a sample. This is a sample. I'll try and put it next to this one so we can see the difference in size. This one is a high twist VFL, the orange one. This is a pumpkin colorway from Nora George. And as I said, this one, I know it's fingering, but I can only tell by looking at it that it's plumpier than this one. And so with the high twisted BFL, I got a very tiny sock. And I actually made two of them to see if I could use a larger hook, a bit larger, and get a larger sock, but they were pretty much the same. So I just made an ichord and connected them. And the ichord, I put it inside books to mark my pages. And so I guess that's another use for that miniature sock pattern. If you've got a buddy, or just you have to do some type of gift exchange, where I remember we used to practice at work, Christmas Secret Santa, where every day you would give one of your workmates a little package of something small, a candy or something small, until the final day where you gave a larger exchange. And so stuffing socks or whatever, your stocking stuffers and whatnot, well, it's all good. It's all interesting, and I do believe that they benefit from blocking. I did not block this one, and if you look closely at it, you can see, oh yeah, definitely you can see the curvature because it was such a small, but this one I did block, and so it straightens out quite a bit when you block it, and so they do benefit from that, even though they're small items. And so if you like your work to look like spot on, that would be a good thing to do with those socks. Okay, well, I have a second thing that I am not wearing, but I am going to pause for a second to put it on so that I can share it with you. So please give me a moment and I will be back. And here I am. This is the second finished object that I wanted to share with you, because although I had finished and talked about it on a previous episode, we had finally received word from Deanne of Addydae Designs telling us that we could share our finished objects on the web, and so that she hopes to get it out soon. And this is my Adelong by Addydae, and I'll share a small video of me wearing it, because I don't think I can have it on for too long. It is boiling, steaming hot, and this is bamboo. It is a mixture of bamboo and wool, and although I think it's an 80-20 or 70-30 or something like that, but the percentage of wool that it has in it, I can feel it. I can feel it. It's a little prickly, and so it is so hot here that I can actually feel the warmth of the wool. It's got a beautiful split hem at the bottom, and it is basically, you do the complete yoke, where the yoke is joined down the arm with short rows, and those short rows meet and they create a design down the arms. And so once the yoke is finished, it's basically very quick, because that is the part that consumes the most amount of your yarn, and the rest, once the yoke is going from one side to the other, so those are tons of stitches there, but then once you get beneath the arms, under the armholes, then you're just going around here with a lot less stitches, and so it's a very quick make. I am waiting on some yarn to come in so that I can remake another Adelong, because I think I would really like to have it in something with a larger wool content, because although I'm pretty sure this will be quite warm in a colder environment, I would like to see it maybe in, I don't know, speckled, or maybe I would like to try and make it into a cropped version. This is pretty long, as you'll see in the video. Well, there are tons of things that you can take this idea and work with it, and so once that pattern comes out, grab it and make it. You will enjoy the make, and you will enjoy the finished object, I assure you. So I am going to take another break, and I am going to change my sweater so that I can continue this podcast. All back and nice and comfy, and a little bit cooler, so that I'll be able to finish this podcast. As a third finished object, I would like to share with you a little bit of home decor that I have been preparing as I get close to October. Well, as we get into October, close to Halloween, and close to Thanksgiving that will soon be approaching. I like to fill my home with the autumnal colors, and one of the things that I like to have are the little figurines, or the little sculptural decorations that I have around the house. I like to crochet bomb them, and so this is a Charlie Brown figure that I was gifted by my son a couple of, I think it was a couple of Thanksgivings back. He knows that I am a Charlie Brown fan, and maybe more in my childish spirit. I always remember this character as one of those that accompanied me when I was growing up, and so one of my favorite stories is the story of the Great Pumpkin, and so I had prepared Charlie Brown to receive the Great Pumpkin for Halloween. So he used to have a little bit of music that goes with him. You had to, I don't know, squish one of these things. There it is. And so this is my Charlie Brown wearing his pilgrim hat. The pilgrim hat is a design from the internet. I have it down here somewhere. Cream of the Crop, crochet.com. And this is her newborn pilgrim hat. So we'll just let him finish his little tune there, and I'll take off the hat and share it with you. This says pilgrim hat. At some point I thought that it might be too short, and so I added some extra rows that I, in the long run, thought, no, it would have been okay. It's just for some reason on the pictures that she shared on the internet, it looked, but of course she was making it for a newborn. You might not want it as long as I wanted it, because I'm only putting it on a puppet here, on a doll. So this is my third finished object. The pumpkin is also crochet, but it was crocheted a while back by Clarissa, by my daughter, and she left it around there, and so I decided that it would be a good thing if Charlie Brown could carry his pumpkin along with him. So there's for crochet bombing our homes this autumn season, and just feeling happy every time I walk through my living room and look at these things. I've got a, I don't know if you can see it back there, I've got an image also of a doll that my son gave me of Snoopy. It's there in the background, and he's also dressed up. No crochet on him. Well, he does have a crochet, I think, in the basket he's carrying, a crocheted pumpkin, but his clothes are sewn. So there's another finished object. We'll just put him around here on this corner here while we finish this up. So there's for crochet bombing our homes. I'm all for it. If I had more time, there would be crochet all over my walls and all over my beds and all over my sofas and all over everywhere. But, yeah, time matters. So, moving on from finished objects, let me make sure I've got them all. Oh, I've got one more to share with you. Here it is. If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen this, but I just wanted to share it completely because it didn't exactly turn out the way I thought it would. Well, in my mind, it was better. It was better looking. You remember that these are the latest version of my sweet socks, where I decided to add a contrasting heel and toe, and then try and use up as much of the yarn as possible, okay, so that there wasn't any of this yarn left over. You'll also remember that the last time I podcasted, I couldn't share with you what yarn that was, other than to tell you it was knit picks, because I couldn't find the ball band. But I also asked Vivian of the KCACY podcast, who's the person that gifted that yarn to me, if she remembered, and she contacted me almost immediately after I uploaded and told me that yes, she did. And so she has a marvelous memory, and she could remember that this was not only knit picks, but it was in the Hawthorne range. And it was also, it has a name, Andromeda Speckle. But since I would have to be looking that up on the phone or have written it down, but I did find the ball band for that. I don't remember where, but I did find it. So yes, it's the Hawthorne fingering weight Andromeda Speckle. So that's the gray. I don't think I had bought what I had left. I had nothing left. Nothing. Nothing. I used it all up. But I did make the socks the same, because the reason behind it was that the first sock I was making it so that I could do the photo tutorial of the pattern that I was going to put up on my blog. And so I made them all one solid color, as most people that were making first socks would be doing. And so I took the pictures. But after I did that, I don't know why it occurred to me that I had never made those socks with a contrasting heel, toe, and cuff, and that I should have included that version also as an option for more experienced or more people that like more of a challenge. So I started making this second version, right? This second version. But my first original version was everything the same. And then when I got here, this sock was already done. Let me tell you, this sock was already done because I used it for the pictures of my photo tutorial. And then I did this one and decided, I was going to make, the foot, right, of the foot of the sock. I was going to make this one with contrasting. And so I wanted to work this contrasting into that first sock, sock foot that I had already begun. And so I decided the way to work it in was to be that this one, I would make the cupcakes in the contrasting color, and everything else in the knit picks. So I have a pair of two totally different socks. They look funnier than I thought they were going to look. I don't know that I could say that I care, because if I use them, they will be under pants or under something will cover them up, because it'll be for the winter and on my winter trips, or they will be in my shoes, and so nobody's going to really see that they are not a pair, not an identical pair. But and then that was my, I believe, going to be my last version of those socks, because yeah, you know, you make 3 of them and then you don't want to make any more. The contrasting yarn was this Valley Yarns Huntington. I do believe that I was able to show you that the last time, and it was a lovely mauve color, and I really do like the combination. I really do. And so I've got basically a lot left of that, of the mauve. So I'm thinking about working up a pair of Addydae baseline socks, combining this mauve color with a solid, maybe a white or a cream colored, and then seeing how that works out, because I do like the color a lot. So that was something that I believe it wasn't finished last time. I did share it on my Instagram feed, so forgive me for repeating if you're on Instagram, but I didn't put both socks. I didn't put both socks so that I could save the surprise for here. Okay, and so that is the last of my finished objects to share with you today. Well, not the last, but for this podcast at least. And so let me share some of the other things I have been working on. And socks have been a big theme all across the internet. There are a lot of sock cals going on. The sock cal hosted by Faye and Crochet and Claudia of Crochet Luna is not the only sock cal that is going on. Another one that I am participating in is the Strictly Sock Cal that is hosted by Little Drops of Wonderful. And Allie of Little Drops of Wonderful has put in a whole set of non-rules for you to follow, because basically she gives you some guidelines and tells you that if you can come up with ways to break those rules and fit your sock in, that she would accept the sock anyway. So a lot of people spend more time trying to devise a way to break the rules than to actually follow them, because the idea is that there is a TV show in the UK that is called Strictly Dancing, and it is something like Dancing with the Stars if you are in the US. And so I do believe that after watching it for a while, I have finally figured out that it is the same as Dancing with the Stars, which I have seen here, in the sense that out of the pair of dancers, one of them is some person that is well known in the UK at least, or they know him, you know, for in show business, or they are on the radio, or they are into publicity. Some well-known person is paired up with a dancer, with somebody who actually dances as a professional dancer, and so they teach, right? They teach the celebrity how to dance, and it's ballroom dancing, and so it's all foxtrot and quick step and waltzes, and it's all beautiful, and the scenography is beautiful. But the idea is that you crochet or knit or whatever, you make up your sock only during the episodes of Strictly. And so at the beginning I find it very difficult. I have never considered myself a music person. I like to sing well, I can't say as much as the next person, but there are many occasions where I sing and where I find while I'm driving to work or long distances, I'll put on the radio. But it is not something that I live by. I don't have to have it. And so when I am concentrating on something, more than not, having music will break my concentration and actually sometimes even annoy me. So I tend to turn music off. So it was hard at the beginning for me to... How do people do this? How do they watch those people jumping all around and the music and all that and crochet or knit at the same time? Because I would either stop to watch what was going on the screen or not look and crochet. And so, well, at the beginning, they do not broadcast for this region, at least for the region where I live in. I don't know if for other parts of the United States, but for the BBC, which is the channel that hosts Strictly, they do host on their YouTube channel. They do broadcast on their YouTube channel the recorded episodes, but I think they even broadcast in live on their YouTube channel maybe, because I saw the announcement. I tried to go in, but it told me that for this region it was not allowed, and I'm guessing it's because you vote. You call numbers and you vote to save or to not save some of the pairs of dancers. So I do rewatch the recordings. At the same day that they give the live broadcasting, they will later on show a cut, the trimmed broadcast, where you only see the dancers but you don't see the judges or the voting or how that goes or the results. And then the week after, they will show the complete version. And so what I did not know was that I'm not sure, and somebody from the UK can correct me, that in the UK, every week it is on for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and on each day you get 1 hour, because when I watch it, I get 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours, and of crochet time with the repeat. So that's what I've been doing. I've been watching the repeats on the UK, and if I want on the YouTube, and if I want more time, what I do is I rewatch that, or I just put it into a loop. I put it into a playlist, or they have 1 or 2 minute recordings of each of the separate dances also, and so that's the stuff that I rewatch. But you can go to the FO. I don't know if people are talking about the way that they're breaking the rules at this point, because Ali does give a prize for the best rule breaker, so might be that people are keeping that to themselves. But I'm thinking that mine is not a very unusual way to break the rules, so I think it's okay to mention it. I mean, I'll share it if you want to participate. Well, anyway, the sock I chose is a sock called, I'm going to look it up on my notes for a second. It should be here. It's called Witchy Woman. It's Witchy Woman, and it is from the book More Crocheted Socks, because it is a second volume of the first book, which is simply called Crochet Socks, and it is by Janet, and I'm going to kill her last name, and I'm sorry. It's Janet Rehfeldt, Rehfeldt. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. But her book is called, the first book, Crochet Sock. The second book is called More Crochet Sock. And this is the Witchy Woman, which I thought was an appropriate name, both because it's October, and second because there are lots of women in these dances on Strictly, and third, because I am a woman, and fourth, because the pattern is lacy, and so, I don't know, tons of reasons why you could have chosen and felt this to be appropriate. It is living currently in my sock bag. If you'll remember, this was the bag that Elizabeth made up as a sock bundle for those of you who wanted to purchase it off of her Etsy shop, Dainty by Crochet Cakes. It's a sock bag. It's perfect size for 1 ball of yarn and a pair of socks. It's a tiny, and it's optional. It could come with the pin designed by Crochet Luna for this sock along, or you can get it with the pin or without the pin, and you could also get it with 30 grams of contrasting yarn to make the cupcake pattern of the sock. I tried it personally for shorties with 1 round of the cupcake pattern and a medium size. But I am pretty sure that you could get more than 1 round of the cupcake pattern out of that, and or the shorties might work for small, medium, or large with 1 round of the cupcake pattern. Well, there are still some in her shop, so if you are still interested, you can stop by and pick them up. And I think you still have the 3 options. I am using, for the time being, this yarn. This is a naturally dyed and ego printed sock yarn. that I purchased from, or it was gifted to me by my daughter, I think. Crafternoon Treats. It is 85% Polworth, 15% nylon, so it's ethically produced Polworth, English yarn. It's ethically produced, and it's got 15% nylon. The base is spun and superwash treated in the UK. Hand wash anything that you create with this so as to preserve the colors. This is eco-printed with fresh leaves, birch, goldenrod, fennel, and tea bags. So that's the color I'm working with right now. And I am working it up with this sock yarn. It's just everyday sock yarn from, I believe it is from Little Bean Loves Yarn. And I don't know if you can notice it here. I've had it for a while, but it is, there you go. If I bring it back farther, it's got glitter in it. So it is a sparkle yarn. And this is what I've been working on so far. Okay. Let's see if I can get, a little bit of the sparkly there. Can you see a little bit of that sparkle? So this part is in sparkle. This is the star toe, a crochet star toe. And so I thought, since this was a version of Dancing with the Stars and in the US we have that version, and there are lots of stars participating on the Strictly Dancing, I figured it was also an appropriate yarn, an appropriate toe to use. And so I've got the star toe at the top, which is not part of the Witchy Woman. That is going to be very difficult for me to continue to pronounce. The Witchy Woman pattern, she has a different toe, so I changed the toe. And then this is her lacy pattern, which is you really have to get a close-up look at it in order to see it's all extended single crochets. But yeah, that's the way it's working so far. So this has been from 2 sittings of the Strictly episode 1 and episode 2 of Strictly. And so you see why people will break rules or bend rules. They won't break them, they'll bend them, because if you're like me, that you kind of like get drawn into whatever's on the TV, well, you might need extra time to finish them, and so you get your extra time by watching reruns or by going into a courtroom and sitting in front of judges, if they would allow you to do that, and crocheting there. Well, I'm crocheting. Most of the people that are participating are knitting their socks. This one is crochet, because she said crochet was allowed. And so, yes, I am going to double dip. But in order to double dip, because of the Strictly, I don't know if I'm going to double dip. I'll take it back. Because Strictly, you can only make it during the episodes or with your rule bending, right? And it goes on until after Christmas, beginning January or something like that. And so the Sock Along, hosted by Crochet Circle Podcast and the Crochet Luna Podcast, that is over at the end of October. So I don't know. Maybe. I definitely could finish the crochet sock before that. But if I follow the rules of only crocheting during the episodes, then I won't make it. Then I won't. That's all I've got done is this. Some people have already finished socks, and that I really don't get. How do you finish a whole and knit? I could not knit a sock for the life of me in 4 hours. But some people have done it. They might have started, there's like a pre-Strictly that starts maybe the week before. Maybe they started there. I don't know. But that is just some awesome knitting. But I might need to bend some rules a little bit more. But that's it for me for the Strictly. Initially, I'm going to be very sincere at the beginning of this week, before I had that second sitting, and here's a little zipper pull that comes with the bag. Initially, I said, no, I'm not going to do this. I just can't take the waiting until the end of the week and then the distraction of the music and wanting to watch the dancing and wanting to crochet at the same time, because if not I won't get another break. And so I said, no, I don't think it's worth it. It's too nerve-wracking for me and I'm not enjoying it. But this week I enjoyed it a bit more because I was watching the 2-hour sequence. I wasn't split up. I had like more time and I could do both things. I could watch and I could crochet, and I found it better that way. So yeah, maybe I'll be doing that, and maybe I'll be able to finish this specifically for the Strictly, and enjoy myself along with all the other people that seem to enjoy this so much. So that's another pair of socks. Next up on my finished objects, that's it. So I'm done with my finished objects. The next up would be my works in progress. And for my works in progress, I do have another sock. It's all about socks. I'm sorry for those of you who do not enjoy making socks, or who just, it's not your thing, it doesn't turn you on, or doesn't excite you. But yeah, this has been the month of socks, and it seems that it's not, I usually always have a sock on the go, and those of you that have been watching this for a while know that, but it's just that I can't stop thinking about making them, and I can't stop looking at yarns that I have and saying, oh, I want to make this into another sock, and so, sorry. But what I did recently was I purchased a pattern bundle from Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears Cottage. The Bakery Bears Cottage. Well, that's the Etsy shop that she has. They run, of course, the Bakery Bears podcast, and they also have a patron site for those of you, or those of us that like what they do so much that we like to donate and help them, because they dedicate themselves to that. They don't work outside of the home generating resources or funds in any other way except through the podcast and through their Patreon page. So but they have so much to offer. They do tutorials. There are enough tutorials there to keep you busy for a lifetime. I truly believe that I could watch no other podcasts and just sit and watch. And I am a patron, and I really do not take advantage of everything that they have online, because it's just so much in terms of what they share, the things they do, the way they go out and show you the UK and its different points of interest and places to knit and things to bake and help with knitting. It's all kinds of stuff, and so it's a really great site to donate to. If you're into that type of thing and haven't given it a try, give the Bakery Bears podcast a try. And every 2 weeks they do a podcast which is about an hour and so long, and you get small pieces of what you actually have extra amount of footage of if you are a patron. So I'm a patron, and I purchased even though the pattern bundle was open to anybody, and I think it still is. It's a pattern bundle. It never runs out. You can purchase it as a bundle still, I believe. And so I believe what happens as a bundle is that you get one pattern every month for 3 months. And after 6 months, I think, is what she said, she then would sell the patterns individually. Well, you guys know that I am a terrible knitter. But I love these guys so much, and I love what they do so much, that I went and bought it, because if there's one thing you know about Kay Jones, is that her socks are wonderful. They're gorgeous things to just look at. I do like looking at her socks, and I do so much enjoy the way she enjoys them, and it's contagious that she enjoys them so much, and she makes it look so easy. And then when I sit down to do it, it's not that easy, and I get frustrated. And so, yeah, love-hate relationship of mine with socks. But anyway, the first pattern in the bundle is called Demima. Her patterns are based on characters from the author of Peter Rabbit. Is that what it is? Pretty sure that's what it is. And so the first one is Jemima or Jemima, I don't know. I should know because I've heard her say it enough, but I don't know. Let's call it Jemima. And so, but I decided that I was going to combine my crochet and my knitting, and I was going to, in this case, I was going to crochet the toe, knit the foot, crochet the heel, and knit the leg. Because knitting in the round is easy. On Magic Loop, knitting in the round is easy. And even though she gives options, you can just knit in the round using stockinette stitch, or she gives you a couple of options for if you want patterns, and if you want some depth in your patterns, and so there's more than one option. And so this is what I did. I chose Jemima. I'm using this yarn, which is another one of the yarns that I got from the D-stash that I purchased. And that yellow was really making this blow up. But I really like it. I really like the slight speckling of the greens and the orange. I thought that was fantastic for this time of year. And plus Jemima, if you haven't read the Peter Rabbit series, Jemima or Jemima, I don't know. I'll know after this because 1,000 people will correct me, but I'm sorry. I didn't think it would be an issue. But anyway, her peak would be something like a yellow or a orangish color, so I thought that would be perfect. And for the body, I am using this. I don't know what this one is because, again, it was from the D-stash. But this one is yarn that I purchased from Melissa, who at one point she's had a couple of names, but she was at one point Melissa Dawn Wool Artist. She has now changed to Acorn Willows, but I don't know if she's changed her yarns, but she has changed her Instagram handle. And so this yarn that she created, it was one of the first yarns that she dyed and put up in her shop. A nice light blue, and she called it Donegal. No, I'm sorry. She called it Blue Sea Glass. She called it Blue Sea Glass, and it is 85-15, 85% superwash merino, 15% Donegal, and 436 yards in 100 grams. Can you appreciate all those beautiful speckles that are in there? Yeah. And so this is my take on the sock. I did once again my star. Well, I did a 4-point toe so that I am increasing at 4 different points, not just at the ends, at 4 different points. It kind of makes it look more like a beak, if you ask me. And then I am knitting up the pattern. Another thing, I said that this is blasphemy, that I have totally sinned here, but okay. Kay, I should have known this when I bought the pattern bundle because I watch her all the time, but Kay makes her socks cuff down, and I make socks toe up, so I had to change the pattern. Well, I didn't have to, but just thinking about casting on 64 stitches and then doing that 2x2 or whatever cuff you enjoy most, knitting just intimidates me, I'm sorry. And so thinking about dropping a stitch and casting on and accidentally twisting my stitches, and so I don't know, I just kind of like crochet is my crutch, that if you want to say it, when it comes to knitting. And so yes, I made the crochet toe, and then she's got I am doing the foot because I'm doing it toe up. I am going to do the foot, then the heel, then the leg, the way I always make my socks. And so it's normal stockinette at the back, and it's got a pattern at the front. And that's what I'm working on right now. And this has been a couple of sittings only, and so yeah, I am not working them consecutively at this point because I figured if it didn't work out, if it didn't go the way I liked it, then what I would do would be just to rip it out, and I didn't want to have to destroy 2 socks. I don't know. At the point, I think I'm going to continue, and so there'll be another sock in my future, and I doubt that I will get this done for the sock cal. I am not doing it during the Strictly dances, so I guess this is just a finished object for me. Just for me. Okay, so I promise that is the last of sock talk for what is left of this podcast. What is left of this podcast, then, I will share with you 2 other works in progress. One of them I already shared with you on the last podcast, so I'll just give you a quick look. And another one is just a design that occurred to me that I wanted to try out, and so I'll share that with you also. The first one is my corner-to-corner blanket. If you'll remember, this is the Alpaca Love corner-to-corner, and what I'm going to get, this is obviously a black and white picture, but what I'm going to get is something that looks like that, but with a little bit of color to it. It's by the Make and Do crew, and so I told you the last time that it was my first corner-to-corner, and I was enjoying it. I am still enjoying the crocheting, not so much the yarn management. But I am currently on or approaching row 60, and so that puts me about here. I've got this top half to go. I'm almost at the exact half point. The half point from here to here, where then you begin decreasing, I'm almost there, like one row away from that. And so then I will start doing this part over here where there'll only be 3 colors, and that will be much more manageable. So I am expecting to continue to enjoy it promptly. I am only doing 2 rows a day because also at the beginning you enjoy it a lot and you say another row because the rows are short, but as you get towards the corner, that diagonal line, the rows become longer, and so it takes more time to do it. And what I have tried to do is to just finish 2 rows a day. Those 2 rows a day should take me close enough to the end of the corner-to-corner C2C CAL of Rosina, which is maybe halfway through November. So I think I'm going to make it. Even if I just go 2 rows a day, I think I'll make it. But once you get past that middle, your rows start decreasing, so I might be able to do a couple more. Okay, let me share it with you, which, as I told you the last time, I dislike, and so I said I probably might not share it again until it's practically done, because of the fact that I haven't been good with my yarn management. I didn't connect little bobbins, small rolls or small little balls of yarn that you can connect and pinch them on your work at the place where you're going to use that color yarn, and you don't put too much, just enough like to get to the end of the row. All that type of yarn management, nope, not me. I tied on skeins of yarns at each point. So let me share with you the blanket, just quickly. Probably start at this corner here, and like I have told you, I am working up. And so I won't turn it because it's uncomfortable with the yarns hanging this way, but you can see this is the tail over here. He's carrying a basket. That golden part is a basket. And then I've got his 4 legs. And so what's missing on this side down at the bottom there is going to be his neck and his head and all that. So basically this side It's almost done. Notice that I am reaching the halfway mark. Like I told you, I'm almost at the halfway mark. And so I can still, I'm not at the halfway mark. I wasn't at the halfway mark yet on Sunday or Saturday or Sunday when the CAL, Rosina's CAL started, so I'm good. She said as long as you're less than halfway through it, you can enter a whip, and so this is good to go to that CAL, and I'm so happy with the colors. The pattern is written for Vanna's Choice, that's Lion brand, and I have told you that there's even sets where you can buy all of the yarns together. When I tried to purchase it, they were out of some of the yarns, so I just decided to go with what I had in my stash and what I could find locally. So this is all Red Heart mostly, and the white is that boucle yarn, because I told you it's made of loops. I don't know if you can see the texture. It's very different from the other one because it's like a hairy, a fuzzy. And so I'm very happy with the way it looks, and corner to corner is a fine pattern to follow. A fine stitch to create something with. I'm even thinking of trying to do my own pattern in a bit once I understand how you write up patterns for this type of thing and how you go about testing it. How do you go about inserting the graphic design into a larger project, and I'm thinking about that too. The yarn management has me a little unhappy, but it's because I'm not doing it the right way. And the reason I'm not doing it the right way is because I prefer to carry my yarns and not have to hide all of those ends. But notice that I have been good about it. There have been quite a few ends. But I've hidden them all. Most of them. I mean, there's one or two that have just recently occurred, but like every week or so, I will hide the ends that have occurred during that weekend, so you know ends, see? So when I get to the end of this, I won't have to hide all of those ends, and I will be most happy. So that's my corner to corner. It's a great pattern, easy to follow. It says for intermediate skills. So, I don't know. The way I figure is anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it and if they want to do it enough. Yeah, it's got its challenges. For me, the largest challenge has been in the yarn management, that I'm not good at being that disciplined. The other thing that I am a bit worried about is this. That's what I've got left. And I've still got, I think I've got this one. That's wrong. It's this one, and I've got one other ball about this size. A bit bigger than this is all I have left. And so I'm really worried about if that is going to be enough. But let's see what's missing. What's missing will be here. This top part is all his neck, and it's a lot thinner. I don't know. I'll just go by ear and see what happens. If not, he might have to have part of his body not fuzzy, because I am not going to go and buy this yarn. I could not find it on the island. This one I had to purchase through internet, through Amazon. I believe I bought it. It was one of those ad items that if you put it into your cart along with $25 in something else, they'll sell it to you for a lower price. And so I don't even know if I could get it again. We'll see what happens. This is it's grown quite a bit, right? Since the first time I shared it with you. So I do believe that I'm going to be able to share this with you as a finished object in not so far away. So I am going to break for a second and put this away because it will become a mess, and I'll be back. Well, that's all put away, and so I have one last thing that I wanted to share with you today, And it is a pattern that I'm working on. You remember that recently I completed the what was it called? The Sherlock's scarf pattern. It was a knitted scarf that was about 65, 70 inches long, and it took me forever. It took me months at a time. Well, all the while I was thinking, why am I knitting this? I could crochet a scarf in a lot less time, and I might even be able to find stitches that have a similar texture. And I thought about it, I even tried it out, and then decided, no, I'm going to stick with it. I am going to knit it because that was what I proposed to do, and I'm going to finish that, and I am going to practice knitting on big needles with a thick yarn, and I'm going to get over this intimidation. But we all know I didn't get over it, and it did take me quite a long. But I wanted to show you some of the stitch patterns that I had worked up along the way every time I got frustrated by the knitting and how long it was taking me. So I wanted to share with you some of my proposed stitch patterns to recreate that same scarf, but in a crochet version. And so I guess that's my thing, right? That's been my thing lately. It's all imitate knitting with crochet, or recreate knitting patterns with crochet. But isn't that okay? I mean, it is a lot easier for me to crochet. I admire knitting and knitted objects extremely. It's not that I don't have admiration for them. It is just that, and I do wish that I could do them. I just don't feel that I can. And it's all about a feeling. You know that once you get an idea into your head, it is hard to get out. So that's why I force myself to knit at least a small project, always have something on the go in knitting. And then I do think about ways, well, I want to have that, but I don't want to knit it. How can I do that with crochet? And that keeps my mind operating and thinking, and my brain thinking. So I did not have the same blue yarn, obviously, but I did have a partner. It's the same Highland wool, Peruvian, 100% Peruvian wool, but it's in this fuchsia color. Oh, is that for a color that you don't normally see on my screen? I think it's a brilliant color. I think it's very nice. It's not too bright, it's dark, it's profound, it's intense. I think it goes great with my skin. And so I'm not saying that this is for me, but I just like the color. And the stitch this is the pattern that I am hooking up. I have used, what else but the moss stitch, which you have seen on so many of my projects as of late. And the reason was because the knit version used, what did it use? It used the seed stitch, and stockinette? No. Seed stitch and garter, the seed stitch and garter, seed stitch is basically a rib gone wrong, because instead of aligning your knits and your purls like you do for a rib, you alternate your knits and your purls, and you come up with you get a seed, you get a pattern that looks like it's got little seeds. And I've got it here next to me, so I am going to reach over for it and just so we can compare. I mean, the idea of the project was to compare, so let's compare. So this is, let's see if I can get it right. It was 40 rows of seed. That's the seed. See? So it looks like little seeds popping up because you do not align your purls and your knits. They are not aligned. And so I am using moss. And because I am using such a large hook, it really sticks out. I think it's a great, I just love it. I just love the texture that is produced by the moss. And then this version has the rows of moss and the rows of garter. This is just your garter where you're just doing, what are you doing there? Knit, 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 knit. I think that's what it is. Knit, cross, all the time. Back and forth. Knitting back and forth. And so for my second texture, I chose this, which I don't know how well it can be appreciated. I've got some pretty poor lighting, but what happens here is that one of the imitations for stitches to recreate your garter stitch is to slip stitch into the back loop only, alternating front and back. I mean, I slip stitch into the back loop, then the next stitch I slip stitch into the front loop, then the next stitch I slip stitch into the back, and then front, then back, then back, then front, then, I mean, going back and forth. And then when you go around the other way, do the same thing. You alternate your slip stitches between the back and the front. Now, I started out doing that, but I am not a good slip stitcher, and so no matter how much you say you have to do it without any tension, I'm always getting tension in there. And what happened was at the end of my row, it was pulling in my work quite a bit. So there was a big difference between the thickness of the fabric, and it might have come out with blocking. It might have come out with blocking, but it was also very difficult for me to keep up with. It was very difficult for me to see because slip stitches, you get a slant in your stitches. So it was difficult for me at some point to see which stitch was at the back and which stitch was actually the last stitch that I made. So I just gave up on it, and I did single crochets into the front and back loop, alternating front and back loop, but using single crochets. And that's how I got that texture. I'm alternating single crochets into the front and back loop. And so the whole thing is alternating segments of moss stitch with segments of this single crochet in the front and back loop. And you can still see that it's not totally even, right? Even though when I am doing the moss stitch, I am using a 5mm hook, an H. These were ergonomic hooks that were created by a shop, online shop. It was started out on Etsy and then it moved to somewhere else, but it is no longer working, I believe. She was a very talented artist. This is polymer clay. She was very talented, but I don't know. She ended up having a lot of problems with production and customer service and fulfilling her orders. So she ended up closing down, but she did not because of lack of talents, because her hooks were very nice. This is the H. That's a Doctor Who, if you recognize it. And this is the H. I am doing the moss stitch, and the I have to find a name for that. Single crochet in the front and back loop, that my version of garter stitch, which doesn't look like garter stitch at all, but it actually looks more like the seed stitch. I am doing it in an I. This was made by the same shop, but this one was a gift from my daughter Clarissa. And so, I don't really use them that much because I'm always afraid of them falling and breaking, but I have been using them for this project. And so the moss stitch, I do it in the smaller hook, and the single crochet in front and back, I'm doing it in the larger hook. And the purpose is to try and to keep my edges like cleaner. You can still see it, sometimes maybe even more than others, that the single crochet pulls in. And this moss stitch, this is what I call moss stitch. And not only I call it, other people do too. But I have seen that in crochet, there are various versions of moss stitch. This is the version that I used for my sock, where you slip stitch into one stitch, and half double crochet into the next, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, and alternate like that all the way around, all the way to the end. And then you come back and you, wherever you had a slip, you put a half double crochet, and wherever you had a half double crochet, you put a slip. So you don't line them up, you also alternate them. I don't know what it would look like if you lined them up. Interesting, huh? But I do like the texture. And I am simply going to do it until I finish this, because I want to use this up. I've had it in my stash for a while. I thought of doing each one of these panels in a different color. And so I still have a lot of this yarn left that a lot of this Peruvian wool highland, because I purchased several colors of it at one point. It was on sale. And so I might link up, it's very stretchy. Notice it's very stretchy in both ways. And these, here I only have 38 stitches, 38 crochet stitches. And if you remember, on the knit version, I said that one of my complaints was that I decided to do 55 because I wanted it wider. So here I've got 55 knit, and here I've got 38 crochet. Notice I couldn't have done 55. Well, I could have done 55 crochet, but I would have got a much bigger scarf. So I was okay with these. This was the 38 that the original pattern recommended for knitted, but I did 55 because I thought I wanted it to be a thicker scarf, a wider scarf. And so this one I kept at 38 because my main purpose here was that I would have enough yarn to use up to make the whole 5 or 6 feet of this, whatever I get. And so I might just do the border, the bottom border in a contrasting color. I've got a nice purple that I think would go good with this. And I'm hoping that the difference in the width will black out. I'll be able to block it out. But I will share that with you in a future moment and show you how that goes. So, oh, I got all wrapped up in this. They don't look identical. This was also knitted with a 4mm. Maybe if I had a DK or a worsted only, I would have also used a 4. So they don't look identical, but you can see that they both have changes in texture. Let's see. Here I am doing 20 rows of moss also, and 10 of the garter. Wow, so that's my sharing of my comparing knitting to crochet, which apparently for me lately has become a habit. Anyway, that is what I have to share with you for today. I am very grateful and thankful that you have decided to join me. I hope you're able to stick it out this far. Sorry for all of the choppiness, but it was just that showing these different patterns or these different works was not a continuous thing because of the difference in size and the complexities of each of those patterns. But I do hope that you saw something you liked, that you enjoyed my content. And so if you liked it, please remember to hit the like button below. That helps me to have exposure to other people that are looking for crochet or crafty podcasts on the internet. It's trying to beat the YouTube SEO algorithm, and that we all try to do so frequently. And if you are not currently subscribed, then if you would like, you may subscribe by hitting the subscribe button below, obviously, and then the little bell will notify you by sending you a message anytime I upload something new to this channel. So thank you for joining me. I sincerely hope that you are having a crafty month and you are enjoying your crafty time. Thank you for sharing with me by watching what I do, but you can also share with me by commenting below and telling me something about what you've been up to. And I'll be very glad to hear it and try and enter into a correspondence with you. So don't be shy. Share your likes or dislikes or your current projects, your current frustrations, or your current crafts of joy at the moment, and I will be more than happy to hear them. So thank you for coming by. I'll see you in another 2 weeks, hopefully. In the meantime, keep yourself happy, keep yourself safe, and keep crafting. Bye!